I will set the zeitgeist straight.
The movie has too much of the cast in it.
Man, I'm saddled with Jeff Goldblum, the world's most uncharismatic actor.
But it has no poetry.
That's not what this is about.
The problem was when the hero started facing adversity.
Get off your soapbox, Laura Dern.
I want to square off on this guy at a dinner party.
The music was thick.
So far, you have not dazzled me. I'm just letting you know. Hey everybody, welcome to Off the Mark, good chat on bad takes of great movies. I'm Dave Columbo.
I'm Mick Andrews.
And we have a wonderful special guest, an incredible comic, really funny dude, and literally one of the only people I can talk to wrestling about. Alex Portillo, everybody.
Yeah. I'll do the I didn't do that justice because I've had RSV for 2 weeks, but I wanted to do the fire car gets launched into the oily rags. See that literally on every TBS preview of like, here's the movie that we're going to show on Thursday night. It's Back to the Future, everybody.
Back to the Future, coming up next. I do apologize. This podcast was not, I didn't have time to build this podcast to scale. No, Doc, it's great. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I guarantee this podcast is going to go 1.21 gigawatts.
Yeah. Okay, let's
Viewership.
rock it. This podcast, we love to wince through the worst reviews of the best movies ever made. We're fascinated now. This has kind of become a real psychological, it became more cerebral than I thought it would in the first 10 episodes, where now we're kind of just like obsessing over what happens to somebody's psyche where you're this wrong and you're this arrogant about it, and what was the world of movie criticism? Was there any oversight? Did they literally just like tick tick tick
Yeah.
tick 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 and done? Like,
Hey, buddy, I need 50 words on Back to the Future, and it's gonna.
First draft, last draft. Get it out the door.
Like, I do think that that's probably a sign that we're not psychopaths, where like originally this was kind of become like, let's make it let's talk about how wrong they are. But now I'm just kind of like, what happened to you?
There is
what
there is
made
a
you feel
sub-theme
this
to this
way?
podcast because on now a number of occasions we've been specifically asked, why do you two do this to yourselves? And so that's
Yeah.
its own level of like actually uncharted territory. Why do we explore these things? But why do we put ourselves through these
That's a great point.
awful reviews?
As a loyal fan myself, I see it like, oh, I can see their passion and like, hey, you know, you guys are asking the hard-hitting questions that literally no one did in late summer of 1985.
It all spawned from me reading one review of Jurassic Park, and it's like there's no sense of wonder, and I was just like, I need to talk about this for hours. And
Was that why this was the flagship
100%.
episode? And
Yep.
I always wondered. I was like,
Dave,
I wonder,
Dave,
like, who hurt
Dave
you?
texted me
This
the
Columbo?
review and said we have to do a podcast about this. It was like,
Yeah.
that was the premise. That's where we went.
Yeah, so what movie, Mr. Mick, are we going to be
Today
reviewing
we are
today?
reviewing what many consider to be probably one of the best kind of action comedy, kind of, you know, fun time popcorn romps of the 80s. We're talking, of course, about Back to the Future.
Let's just get it out there. I mean, I would love...
Who doesn't love this?
I would love if my number one favorite movie of all time was some avant-garde, you know, expressionist German film from 1925. I would love that. I would love to be that sophisticated. If we're all being honest, this is what I'll say. I'm not gonna speak for anybody else here, but I think that if people were more honest, most people would put Back to the Future probably at number one, just in terms of, if it's on, you are watching it. You are canceling plans. Like, every frame of the movie, every scene, every music cue, every acting performance is what movies are all aspiring to be. It's perfect. It's beautiful. The tightest script in the history of filmmaking, the most incredible actors, the best casting.
It's been on pretty much everyone's like top 100. It's in the you know, Congress has been like, oh no, this we're gonna say this. We're gonna time capsule this in case there's a nuclear war and people need to know about this in 3,000 years. This is one of the films. Like it's
And also, it even like yes, there was a cartoon. Yes, now there's a Broadway musical, but it's one of the few franchises that kind of survived relatively unscathed of being like milked to death and reinvigorated, and 5 more sequels and then a reboot and then a da-da-da-da. It's one of the few where like I love the third one, but the third one definitely was kind of like, yeah, the story's been, it's pretty much all the story we want to tell.
it's funny that you say that because it's always been the first one and then the third one for me.
Yep.
As well.
I always say that the third one was the movie that I watched the most growing up, to a point where when people quote movies, but they like, people know the lines from movies, but they don't take the pauses in the right place because the movie so well that you're like,
infuriate you so much.
Like, it's not how it is. And not ironically, I have to convince my wife of this. I want on my tombstone, shot in the back by Buford Tannen over a matter of $80. Yes. I want it so bad. I want it so bad. But yeah, when we talk about 1 and 3, 2 I love, but 2 was too much anxiety for me growing up because the whole thing is a heist. It's all trying to get the almanac, and it's all almost and then no, and then almost and then no. And there's something about that when I was a kid that wasn't as appealing. It was structured in a way that wasn't as appealing as the first one, which is just pure movie magic, and the third one, which is like, it's the West.
I think the first is untouchable. I vastly prefer the second to the third, mostly because I love movies. I love time travel movies in general, but I love time travel movies where the pieces all fit perfectly, like where and this is something I learned much later after having watched this movie. I learned that Carl Sagan, when he was alive, had said that Back to the Future Part 2 is the best made movie about time travel ever, because everything that Marty does in the prom scene when he's there the second time could have happened the first time he was there. So like he was there the entire time. He just was never, Marty 2 was never seen by Marty 1. I just find I love the way it all fits so perfectly.
I was gonna say, I agree with you, because I remember seeing it and be like, oh man, this is like, especially when he has to go like behind the scenes and knowing that, oh, I already did this back when I went into DeLorean the first time, and then I got to do this, but I got to spy and be around this. Like, I get that.
He runs into Lorraine a second time and like has a conversation with her that works seamlessly as if he was just there. Like, that stuff is so great to me.
My ranking is purely because we recorded off of TV the VHS Back to the Future 3, and then we missed 2, so we just kept rewatching 3.
Isn't it amazing how like little quirks like that define like your taste and things?
I'm from Texas. We love the West. All right, so that
Oh, Nick, when you talk about like the quirks that define your taste, my entire knowledge of movies was what was available at Blockbuster. Time Bandits, Police Academy, and Spaceballs were like, that's always there. Like, oh, no one rented it.
No one's getting these ones. I'll pick it up.
To the youngins in the group, you used to go to a brick and mortar building, and if you saw an entire wall of your favorite movie on VHS, or this new movie that you were really excited for, you weren't guaranteed yet. Even though you saw the wall of it, you had to see the tape behind it. I think that one of the great things, when you mention like the time travel mechanics, one of the reasons I think Back to the Future 1, all of them, but 1 especially stands out, is it is a time travel movie, but you're never bogged down in the psychology of the mechanics of the time travel. It helps propel the story forward, but like when you watch a movie like Looper, I love Looper, but 90% of it, my brain is going like, how does this work? What will happen next? Why does this? And you need it to. And I need Bruce Willis to literally look at the camera and go like, don't Stop asking questions. Your head's going to hurt.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I need. Otherwise, I'm just going to do that for the whole movie. But Back to the Future is so shiny. You got your Huey Lewis in the news. Bam, bam, doom, 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 doom. It's literally telling you time travel is going to be the mechanic that we used to have a lot of 80s screwball fun.
I mean,
but
like the best indicator of that is that there is a unit of measurement called a gigawatt. That's what it was supposed to be. And Christopher Lloyd just said gigawatt, and nobody cared. Like, no one gives it. Like, that's the science.
Script supervisor was just like, it's fine. Yeah.
Gigawatt. I guess that's how you say that. He seems confident about it. So,
but it's that perfect medley of it holds together enough, like it actually enough for Carl Sagan to be like perfect. Like, that's great. But it's also the fact that, like, that's not the only reason you're watching the movie. Okay, let's just back up for a second. It's just the best 80s movie. It is the 80th 80s movie. The aesthetics are there. We're doing the what'd you do? Jump ship? Like the jacket, the outfit, the DeLorean. It has a style that is uncompromisingly 80s, but also like unique. It is telling you the time machine is made out of a DeLorean. Let's have some fun. It's not explaining it. And that's a beautiful thing about movies in the 80s where they're just like, this is the like Ferris Bueller's World. Welcome. You know, like, it's just insane. They don't have to explain it. I mean, all those things that are now kind of cliche, the meme where it's like, you know, Back to the Future could not be made today, where it's just like, it's a old scientist just hanging out with a young kid, you know, like all of these things that made sense at the time or nobody asked at the time because 80s and cocaine. The goofy side characters, save the clock tower, just that kind of acting choice would be on the cutting room floor in a modern movie.
Yeah. So,
let's do it.
Oh God.
Little bit by way of background. The year is 1985. The season is summer. The time is July.
Bam, bam, doom, 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 bam, bam, doom, doom,
this movie burst onto the scenes July 3rd, 1985, right in time for 4th of July weekend. It ultimately was the #1 movie of 1985 in a very competitive field. Some other movies that came out basically around the same time, a lot of competing summer blockbusters at this point in time. We had The Goonies, St. Elmo's Fire, everyone's favorite Cocoon, some other big hits include View to a Kill, came out a month before, Fletch, Rambo First Blood Part 2, and then a few weeks afterwards, we had in July the 1985 re-release of E.T. So yeah, very competitive field, and this came out at #1, grossing with a total gross of $211 million. Worldwide, that's total domestic. Worldwide is 388 mil, nearly $400 million. We have some reviews here where people respectfully dissented.
Respectfully. Love.
All right, here we go. New York Post, July 3rd, 1985. Back to the Future is yet another in a series of endless close encounters of the Steven Spielberg kind.
It couldn't be less close encounters. What are you talking about? Cronenberg's The Fly is just Lawrence of Arabia. What are you talking about?
What?
Oh my God. Okay. All right. I'm good. I'm not salty already.
Someday movies may return to normal.
Oh boy, is he wrong. Oh boy. Again, I want to just take them by the hand be like,
wait for this next sentence.
Yeah, well,
think about this
90s.
day and age. For those of you who are listening rather than watching, I'm sorry, but for those of you watching, take a look at Alex's room and listen to this next sentence. Meanwhile, we're stuck with bubblegum fantasies conceived by people who have OD'd on comic books.
Yeah. I wouldn't exist without this movie. Like, and you know what's funny is I can't really shift left or right. There's a whole probably 100 square foot of shit. I'm not even showing you.
Yeah. Alex, if you don't show up to work, we know where the boxes fell on you.
Oh
we
yeah,
know
no, this whole thing
immediately where to
just
come.
collapsed on me.
Yeah.
It's-
I just love the idea of this person
Yeah.
going like, well, this is just Back to the Future is about as much comic book as you can squeeze into a movie.
Yeah.
like I'm gonna die under the pile of the covers A and B of the Back to the Future comic books. And all
Yeah.
that I bought for my friends and myself and
Oh,
got
man.
signed. Yeah, come on.
But watching Back to the Future and being like, this is just an anomaly. Like seeing the phenomenon that it is, to have the arrogance to be like, I can't wait for things to get back to normal. I can't wait for this movie that made $400 million domestically and worldwide. I can't wait for Hollywood to not jump at this and change the paradigm.
That's
to
the fascinating
to
thing
chase
to me.
this.
The complete inability to see the way the wind blows and go like, this is cranking. People are gonna love this. It's upbeat. It's a great time. And also, like, they can make this kind of movie with a whole bunch of stuff. This person knows clearly knows comic books are an avenue for a movie to be based off of now. It's like,
it's never an acceptable, like, because here's the thing: if you were a film reviewer in the 80s, you've watched that, like, the 60s was a response to the 50s, the 70s was a response to the 60s, and you know the paradigms change. There's literally there's no template for things going back to the way they used to be.
it must be so
that's not going to
depressing
happen.
to be a conservative movie viewer, not like politically, like from a like from a film standpoint, to want to go back to a simpler time.
Oh, they would shit their pants to know that this was actually a Broadway
Oh my God.
play
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But maybe they're coming from a standpoint. It's like, okay, like you said, they're a more conservative movie viewer in their taste, but they were watching all the kind of science fiction boom of like the 70s and then the 80s, and all the hardcore sci-fi. And then this is like, it's dabbling into time travel, but it's also a little bit of sci-fi, but it's like more like mainstream accessible. And like, oh well, this is it seems to me like this is maybe today's version of the Marvel movies. Like, oh,
dude,
everything's Marvel.
I would understand, and I'd even a little bit respect if someone was like, if the point of this review, which, spoiler alert, it's not. If the point of this review was we need more hardcore sci-fi, we need stuff that like that it pushes the boundaries of, like, we need more Philip K. Dick in our writing. We need more like Asimov movies. That is not where this person's going with this review.
But I do appreciate right off the bat expressing the point, which we've heard a million times, which is, this isn't the thing that I want. Like, you're not meeting the movie where it is. You're not saying, I'm accepting that this is probably what teenagers in the 80s are going to enjoy. That said, here's my issues with it within that world. Like, they're immediately starting with, this shouldn't exist. People shouldn't like this.
You would think that everyone at least critics, even like any kind of critic, food critic, hotel critic, like, okay, here's a blank slate, and here's where I'm coming from as a consumer myself. Here's what I like. Okay, here's what I like. Here's this movie is. Don't like it. Now, boom, goldfish.
Now we can
brain.
talk.
Now we can talk. And here's what this movie is. And you would think that that's the review of it, but
Alex,
most often we find,
that's never the review of it.
I think that's a review perspective of someone who like has concern about like has concern about like what's the word I'm thinking of? Integrity, probably.
A lot of people
at least like a moderate concern about the feedback they're going to receive from their reviews. These people these people. They write these reviews as if I very much think there was no blowback, no repercussions. No one was checking
No
this stuff.
no oversight whatsoever.
Because their newspaper has people that they can say, screen any bad news and let me know. And, don't send me the letters. It's not like now. It's like, oh, I'm going to Yelp you specifically. And
also,
everyone's going to know.
Like, if you put out a
how rough
YouTube essay on this movie, it'd be up there for the next, you can watch it for 10 years.
For sure.
And it's your face staring at the camera going, this movie is bad and here's why. You need to think about it a lot more critically than someone who writes a newspaper that literally goes out of date in 24 hours. Like, it's more ephemeral.
But also they don't even stand by it. Like, the number of times we'll search out reviews and I'll see like somebody had a negative review of Fellowship of the Ring, and then that same publication will do like a retrospective 20-year, let's talk about, but they don't even acknowledge it. They're just kind of like, the phenomenon that is the Lord of the Rings trilogy is coming back with The Hobbit. Let's reconnect with our top 10 moments. And it's like, motherfuckers, you were the one person. Yeah. And it's like when you even can find the reviews, but seeing the absolute, like you're saying, goldfish brain, where it's like, we don't even stand by as a publication the thing that we put out. And 10 years later, 5 years later, it's like, well, the sequel to that thing we said sucked is out. Let's now let's get the fires burning again. And it's like, no.
Gary said it was bad. We fired him like
Gary
3 years ago. So
anyway, let's get psyched.
Or you know what I'm psyched at? I'm sorry to sidetrack you more. Is the one time that you find a reviewer that you can get on the show that's like, yeah, no, I fucked up.
That'd be great one day.
And not even from a like dunking on them standpoint. I just really am interested when somebody, even more than them admitting they're wrong, I love a person who's like, yeah, dude, that movie blows. Like,
I know I've said it before, but I will say it again. One of my very favorite movies is Zodiac, and all I'm hoping for is to one day be able to walk into a hardware store and stare at one of these reviewers and have them look at me and know that I know. And I want them to just look at me and say, like, can I help you? And me just be like, oh. And I just leave. And that's it. Roll credits. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, we did find that one guy who stood by his stuff, and I have nothing but respect for it. We mention it a lot on the show, but I love a reviewer who goes like, yeah, in the 70s, I thought this shit was for squares, and I still do. I don't care that Star Wars is a global phenomenon. I don't understand what you nerds are watching.
I've never cared much for sci-fi or television.
Yeah.
Don't email me again.
Couldn't care less. Good for you, man. I love it.
Get off my lawn.
Oh, man. Back to the Future is about a high school senior accidentally sent back in time to 1955, where he meets his own parents at his age and almost changes the course of history. I quibble with that, but okay. If I were an editor there, it would have crossed out almost and changed it to literally.
Mm-hmm.
Marty McFly, Michael J. Fox, lives with the constant reminder that he's a good-for-nothing, just like his father, George, Crispin Glover. Dad is a simpering wimp, and Mom, Leah Thompson, is a fat, self-righteous kvetch. Were they always that way? Marty is one of those few teenagers on Earth who gets a chance to find out. What do you mean, few teenagers on Earth? Were there others?
Like, there were different versions. Yeah.
He joined the lucky group of children who get to see what their parents were like when they were teenagers. What? This is how it's written. There's this demented professor who is Marty's friend.
Mm-hmm.
The professor builds a time machine out of a car that runs on plutonium stolen from Libyan terrorists. When the Libyans attack the professor, the kid goes up in the time machine by accident. Up. I read that right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But instead of the future, the setting Marty emerges in is 30 years earlier. The suburban real estate development where Marty's family home is located is now just a cornfield. The town is something out of a Gidget movie. Instead of acid rock, the music is Patti Page. The local movie house is showing Ronald Reagan movies. In the time warp of 3D glasses and sock hops, Marty meets the kids who will someday become his parents. His father is still harassed by bullies. His mom thinks that Marty's name is Calvin Klein because of the label in his underwear.
Can we just stop for just a quick second? Besides that first like 2 sentences, this recap is like this is a long recap
Just a
to
recap,
not say
yeah.
anything that could be construed as negative. Like if I'm just reading that on the back of the box, I'm like sold.
I'm really
That's a fun
glad
concept.
you said that right now.
Oh God. All right.
This leads to a
All
lot
right, here
of
we
jolly
go.
confusion if you have a 10-year-old brain, especially when Marty's own future mother falls for her own son.
They obviously speak about, oh, here's how I fell for your father, and then he goes back in time and does the exact same thing that made
Yeah, he
her
replaces
fall
his
for-
dad in the story.
like it like it's not like they just like throw it out of nowhere and be like, man, this mom really wants to bang her son. It's like, no,
Yeah.
it's like here's the exact circumstances that he
Yeah.
like explain it.
Also,
Yeah.
they give you a lot of. I always liked that story because because when you see it, it's so different from how it's presented. Like the dad is a peeping Tom, like
Right.
like the reason that
And not only that, but the Lorraine also talks. She has like this whole diatribe about how you know girls' values and you can't be doing this, you can't be doing that, and then she's a total slutbag when she's in her teens.
What are you suggesting that there's levels to this movie, that this reviewer is somehow
Oh man, neglecting?
Missing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I also
How
just
dare
not to harp too much on the peeping Tom thing, but it is like it cracks me up how bad George is at being a peeping Tom. That he's
so
in
bad.
broad daylight,
on a
completely
tree with binoculars.
unobstructed in the middle of a branch,
leaves
with-
falling
with
off,
comically large
onto the ground.
binoculars.
one of 3 branches extending over a road.
He's
and
literally
hanging
out on a limb in front of everybody.
Look, he's strung out. He's writing Biff's homework. He's doing all sorts of stuff on
Yeah.
his day
Yeah,
off.
he-
He doesn't.
He just
Who
needs to
among
prep
us?
one out. And
Have you 10-year-old brain, especially when Marty's own future mother falls for her own son. Own twice in there. I'd scratch one. You mean my mom's got the
Yeah.
hots for me? Oh, wow. This is heavy. The dialogue is not likely to win any Oscars.
Yeah, you said own twice in one sentence.
Yeah.
Your critique is like it's good if you're a 10-year-old. Like you are not blowing me
we're in a bit
away
of a
with
pot
your
kettle
dialogue
situation
either.
here.
Yeah.
In the madness that follows, Marty not only must find a way to get home to 1985, but he has to get his parents together or he'll never get born.
Never get
Yes.
born.
That's how it
like
was
exist
written.
would have been so much better. I ain't never gonna get born.
I'm getting the vibe that this was like dictated to a secretary or something, and he's like pacing angrily.
Let me read it back. Actually, never mind. Print it.
Yeah, tell me more about the dialogue.
I'm just thinking about a new Jason Bourne spinoff now called Get Born. Just to attempt to relate what happens next, risks involuntary incarceration in Bellevue's psychiatric ward.
Something that frustrates me so much is the certainty from the critic that they have your attention. I can go off for a bit and then come back and you're still here.
You're hanging on my every word.
Like that, what point are you making? And I know we live in the digital age with cell phones and with YouTube and, there's a million other things to distract us. But like, you got to think even in the 80s, someone would start reading that and go like, I'm good.
To distill that sentence, or actually to like probably rewrite it for them, what he's saying here is, if I were to try to tell you what happens in this movie, it will risk me being involuntarily sent to a psychiatric hospital. That's how bananas it is.
Yep.
And I would counter that by saying hundreds of other people have written reviews of this movie that include the plot. And to my knowledge, that has never happened ever.
This is like convoluted time travel, when you're thinking about it. Like this is like baby's first time travel if you compare it to other time travel movies that have so many other different arcs and paradoxes.
It's as straightforward
Come
as
on.
a time travel movie could be. If I'm editing that now, I just can't stop editing it. But like, I would change that whole sentence to the rest of the plot is crazy.
Yeah, that's all
But
you
they
have to say.
cannot help themselves, Dave. They can't help
Yeah.
themselves. Some of this yucky corn is amusing because it satisfies our curiosity about the past.
Don't pretend that's a phrase.
Yucky
Don't pretend that's like malarkey. I mean, I'm gonna start using it.
My 1-year-old said that like 2-3 days ago, and that's what I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, did this critic let their infant son too
Right.
close to the recorder? You
That's
know,
a good one.
like
Here's
I
your
love
coin.
it.
Now you know what, I'm
That's
gonna keep
it.
that. That's good.
From the
I'm gonna
mouths
keep.
of babes, tick, 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 zing. You might like this movie if you're a doo-doo head. Some of this yucky corn is amusing because it satisfies our curiosity about the past. Parentheses. Who doesn't wonder what his parents were like as teenagers?
All right, so
I guess
backhanded compliment
it
about
satisfies
the
our
movie?
curiosity about the past. But Back to the Future is a two-joke idea that runs out of steam before the time machine does.
Absolutely not.
Mm.
Under no
Pop up,
circumstances.
And
boys,
yet
pop
they-
up.
You have a ticking clock. You've got the script is as tight as it's possible to be. I don't know what deserves to be a full feature-length movie more than this. You're watching Michael J. Fox crush it as your protagonist. You're in 1985 for the perfect amount of time before you go back to 1955. There's a perfect amount of time before he meets young Doc. They put the plan together. The Enchantment Under the Sea dance. It all happens. You're in and out in like less than 2 hours. Fuck yourself.
Yeah, but it kind of runs out of steam, though.
The movie runs out of steam.
But not even that. Like it. I mean, he didn't have the vision of foresight, but like everything that it has inspired since it came out. Let's not even focusing on the sequels, but just time travel movies itself, pop culture in and of itself.
Yeah, think about the fact that like the movie, all it did was go back to 1955 and then
go
back
back
to the
again.
modern day. But like you're telling me that's played out? There's no more meat on them bones?
And the stakes weren't even to go back to fix anything else other than let me make sure this dude doesn't get shot up. Oh, wait, here's a new problem that I caused by going back. Cool, I'm going to fix this. I fixed it. Let me go back with just enough time to fucking, oh, hey, let me pull this dude to the side while the bullets are going that way, is kind of where he was. Like he was like, okay, I wasn't going to go back and, hey, let me kill Hitler or let me go get riches. Or he's like, no, I went back and I shouldn't have because it wasn't my thing. Let me go back and save my friend.
A time travel movie in which time travel is used like effectively twice, not including Einstein, like where time travel happens twice in the movie.
Yeah.
In an 80s movie, and you're saying like this is played out, like there's nothing more to do. Okay. All right.
Director Robert Zemeckis and co-scriptwriter Bob Gale don't know how to end the far-out fantasy they've created, and the smell of an equally silly sequel permeates the air like a gas leak.
All right. I'm gonna think positive. And I'm going to assume that the next sentence is him explaining what a better ending would have been, and he's going to fix this hole, and he's going to explain how it would have been. Mick, whenever you want to
You're not going to get it.
hold on. Let's hear it. He just said that it was written horribly and they didn't know what to do with the end. This movie that made $400 million. So I can't wait to hear what he suggests.
Dave, you don't have to follow it up with any.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that one sentence dig at a movie can be its own paragraph. I feel like this guy wrote that and said to himself, he shoots, he scores.
I think I've made my point.
I swear to God, we move on. I'm not. There's nothing really offensive about Back to the Future. If all you crave for your money is brainless juvenile escapism, Steven Spielberg, the executive producer, knows his audience, even if I don't.
You just spent the entire review saying you did know what the audience was. I'm blown away by the repeated, like, weak writing from critics who are complaining about bad writing, but literally can't think of anything more eloquent than "you're brain dead 10 years old if you like this movie." It is so bare bones. It is the first draft that you come back in and you zhuzh up, because that is just unacceptable, especially for somebody who's talking shit
it's also
about writing
itself. Like a self-report. If you're the best argument you can make for a movie is this movie is for people who are childish, that argument is itself childish. Like that is a bad way to critique a movie. To be like, the only person who will like this is nerds.
If I'm at a party,
have not critiqued the movie.
Like it's such a rude thing to do in life and here too, to just be like, it sucks.
Or you're
next.
Stupid if you like
Like
this.
you're not.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder about the people
All
who
right.
watched Back to the Future, enjoyed it, and then read this review and go like, fuck you, man.
When we talk about accountability, like, I would love to read up and see, was there like a boycott? Like, I mean, not that people cared. Like we're talking about, like, Vietnam War era, where it's like
1985.
I know there's more important shit out there, but not to me.
Took to the streets.
Awful.
Okay, well, that's the end of that review. I think it is time for everyone's favorite two reviews and a lie.
Oh
yay!
man, I've been dreaming about this. Let's go.
We have slightly changed the game a little bit here, Alex. We've reached a recent agreement whereby if Dave correctly guesses which review I wrote, I am then required to post that review on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, those are great stakes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Love it.
So let's say Dave doesn't get it. Let's say I do. Same stakes.
We were gonna say, like, the guest is playing their own game only because, like, it doubles.
We
the
now
chance
have a 66% chance of
the
having
person
to
having to put it up.
Review.
Well,
yeah.
Okay, I get it. In fairness, yeah. If I were playing for just you to post it, then I would, of course, do a different one than Dave just to double the chances. But okay, that's fine. You don't have to.
I'll tell you what, Alex. I'll tell you what. One day special. If you guess it, I'll post it too. I don't. I'll give it to you, buddy.
Ooh,
I'll let you have it.
All right.
Okay.
Love
All right.
it.
Here we go. Yeah.
I have gone through and found audience reviews, not critics reviews. These are from just everyday viewers who have filled out their own reviews on Rotten Tomatoes that are also negative. Two of these are actual reviews from actual audience members, and one is something I completely made up off the top of my head with a lot of inspiration from some of these other reviews. It is Dave and Alex's job to guess which one I wrote and which two are true. Before we get into it, this is a real review. This is not part of the game, but I wanted you guys to hear this because it made me feel a little hollow. This is the entirety of the review. Everyone who's ever seen this movie loves it. We all wish we could go back in time. I know I do.
Mad that time travel isn't
real. We all
real.
wish we could go back in time. I know I do. What happened to this person?
Yeah, did he, like, drunk driving, like, T-bone a car or something? And he's like, he's just sitting there with brandy and and he's just like, God damn it, things I would take back.
This haunted me the way, like, you've heard Hemingway's, like, 6-word story, for sale, baby shoes never worn. It hit me the same way this review did. What has happened to this person? Okay.
You really think someone that's swirling brandy has any regrets, Dave? Come on.
That's a good point. Yeah.
They murdered
The
those
man
people
has
of their
brandy,
own
Dave. He
volition.
hasn't made mistakes.
There's a fireside. Come on.
Okay, ready? It's this is review 1.
Yeah.
It's wildly overrated, only mildly entertaining because of the predictions they made about the future. But the story is so lacking, and it shows that this movie is average at best. Why am I the only person in the world who thinks this movie is weird, silly, childish, and pointless? He dates his mom, for crying out loud. Whatever. Embarrassingly terrible. I was very disappointed with this movie. Maybe it was good back in the 80s. God, I hated Marty's dad. A worthwhile watch if you don't vomit at the incest, but I hate Steven Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis.
Wow.
Vaguely,
okay. All right.
Here's number 3.
They're Nazis.
Vaguely incestuous overtones, predictable story, and badly acted. While I'm sure it probably deserves some pity points for its age and the fact that it inspired other (parentheses better) films, we need to accept that this movie is profoundly mediocre.
Okay. Here's the problem, and I don't know if you have the same experience. You going with 1? Yeah. Every time we do this, the first one, I'm like, okay, that one seems real.
Oh, that's
and
real.
then you read the second one,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, so 1 and 2 definitely seem real. And then I get a third one, and I'm like, motherfucker.
Glad I shot my shot before your explanation. That's fantastic.
Okay, I think I need a second here because I think that 3 is real. I think 1 and 2 sound like laughably. 3 sounds like the kind of phrasing that I've heard a lot. So I think that 3. You went with 1, Alex? I don't know. Just to make things interesting, I'm going to say number 2. You wrote.
I wrote number 2. Dave, help yourself to a point, and I need to set up a Rotten Tomatoes account.
You know why I went with 1? The only one that had childish in, which
is what we saw. That was a smart play.
Yeah,
I also went to
the
frankly, I think unreasonable amount of people that saw this movie as Marty being interested in his mom, which I didn't read into this movie at all.
Not even a little bit. No. Yeah.
Well,
that's
honestly,
hilarious.
if my mom was Leah Thompson, I'd kind of be interested in her too.
Like, there would be a massive amount of because there's such a difference visually, there would be like this moment where you're like, really? I mean, especially like in 2 when he's like, but you're so big.
I didn't realize this. I was, in the course of reading news reviews, funny thing that I didn't know until I learned I did this. In the future, I'd never done the math about it, but in the future, when they're supposed to be quote unquote old, the amount of makeup they're wearing to look old, first off, is itself hilarious. It's ridiculous. Do you know how old they're supposed to be? 47.
Oh, get out of town.
And they're like talking like this.
Dad's home. Terrifying.
So what'd you guys think? Did it change your opinion of Back to the Future?
I don't even know what that review said. I don't even...
Yeah. Half of it.
I mean, that review was just boiled down to you'll like it if you're dumb. But who is he? Who are you? The movie entertained me for 2 hours. What have you done?
60% of that review was if I lost my internet connection and I forgot what the movie was about and I just couldn't Wikipedia the plot. They were just telling me what's happening.
But then he just gives up in the middle too and says if I tried to describe the rest, you'd think I'm crazy.
That's the incredibly frustrating thing to me, and we've articulated this a little bit before, but it's the idea of all of the work that goes into even mediocre movies, and how much work that is compared to how little effort is put into your breakdown of it and your knockdown of this thing to be able to come in and say Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale suck. You have to earn that. I'm waiting for the, okay, where's your movie? Where is your, like you're even dissing Spielberg. Do you think that I'm going to go, well,
but
I
now
did
that
like
you
those
said
movies,
that,
but this person says that, it's so insanely frustrating.
Or even if they were someone like, even if they were like a reviewer worth their salt and like actually looked at it critically and analytically, none of them touched on any of the plot points.
No.
Or they're not the plot holes. They touched plainly on the plot points. They just basically said what the movie was. But it's like, oh, hey, he goes back in time, and
No, there was no specifics. We're not getting into detail, and we talked about it, but it's this idea of like in the modern era with like YouTube videos, you at least see that the person making the critique is working hard and spent hours and hours and hours on the editing, on the writing, on the, I'm going to use examples and I'm going to explain why, I'm going to reference other movies, I'm going to bring this in. There's work being done, so even if you disagree, you appreciate the effort. And that is just completely missing here.
yeah.
Half of that was just recapping the movie.
Hey, I'm on a deadline here, and I also got to watch Rambo: First Blood Part 2. It came out this weekend. I don't have.
I didn't get to it, but some of the smaller reviews for Raiders of the Lost Ark were like in like little tiny baby things next to other reviews, and it was like, I tell you what isn't chasing a MacGuffin, the Great Muppet Caper. Like it's like the moving from multiple reviewers had to go from Raiders of the Lost Ark into the Great Muppet Caper, and just their ability to just be like,
Is it a Muppet that I haven't heard of, or what?
yeah. No, I think I still love. I think I'm still a fan of Back to the Future. I'm
all
just,
right. If you say so,
if you say
so,
still does it for me.
Right.
I watched the second half of the movie and I did not get sent to an insane asylum. Surprisingly.
Yeah. I'm sorry. This might be super long, and you. Can
this
cut
was,
but I'm giving the writer way too much credit. But when I first read that, I thought of like, I'm a big Lovecraft fan, and but a lot of his descriptions of his monsters can fairly be boiled down to this thing is just so insane looking that if you look at it, you go insane.
yeah. How many different ways can you?
So crazy that when people look at it, they go crazy. It's like, and I got that vibe from this. It's like I can't even begin to describe it because you'd go crazy if you thought about it. It's like, okay, thanks. Yeah. Way to paint a picture with your words. For the record, I love Lovecraft, but like he didn't even really try.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's got tentacles, but otherwise you'd go crazy. It's crazy.
This has been amazing. Alex, where can we find you?
I'm a terrible comedian that I'm not super plugged into social media, but I'm changing that. I'm actually developing a new podcast called Fight Me Bro. It's kind of a debate.
Nice.
We debate silly
Sounds
things.
like a blast.
Nice. Love it. Oh, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's like who's better, drunk soccer fans or drunk football fans, things like that. We have like
Cool.
rounds and categories and stuff. But you can find me on it's X now at Alex Portillo Comedy, and then everywhere else at A Portillo Comedy, on the TikTok, on the Instagram, all that.
Awesome. You can find me at davecolumbo.com, DVD Columbo on Instagram, Dave Columbo on TikTok. Please like, share, and subscribe. Send us your own 1-star review of Back to the Future. Tell us what episodes we should do next. This has been an absolute blast. I get such a kick out of this. We will be back next week with more insanity. Until then, this has been off the mark.